Hello, here we are at Yamaha in Milton Keynes. Jack and I have driven up today to see Simon Edgoose to discuss the new Yamaha DTX kits. Hi, Simon.
Hi.
How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Good. So the new Yamaha DTX kits, we've got the DTX10 in front of us here, and we've got the DTX8, which we're going to talk about in a while. I know you've been instrumental in the development of these.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit about them.
Okay, so it's a bit of a different direction for Yamaha. The 10 you can get with two different head materials. So normally for the last however many years, Yamaha's been using TCS, which is their silicon surface, textured cellular silicon. But also on these kits, you can also go for a mesh version as well. So you have a choice of mesh or TCS, and you also have a choice of shell finishes because they're real wooden shells built in the Yamaha drum factory. And you can have the real wood finish, which we've got here, or the Black Forest, which we'll see later.
Black Forest. That real wood looks amazing.
Yeah.
And if I had a real wood kit, I would want this to go with it.
Absolutely.
So it looks stunning. Okay, so you've got a choice of colours, black or real wood. Mm-hmm. The choice of heads, which is interesting, because as you say, they've always historically offered the silicon heads,
yep,
which I love. I'm a big fan of the silicon head. Mm-hmm. So is there a reasoning for offering mesh?
Well, it's sort of the expected thing now. Everyone's familiar with mesh. Everyone knows what it feels like. Everyone knows how it feels. And, you know, so.
But it doesn't feel as good as silicon, though, does it?
It feels different. It definitely feels different. But if the the customer base says, we want mesh, then obviously got to go down that route.
Okay. So you've got a choice of heads, so different feel.
Yeah.
And choice of colour.
Yeah.
But ultimately in the 10, there's one kit. So there's one module.
Yeah.
Two different colours, two different head choices. So 4 kits to choose from.
Yes.
Okay. And what can you tell us about the module? That's an all new unit, isn't it?
Completely new unit. It's called the DTX-ProX, and it's completely new from start to finish. So many drummers are using virtual plugins. So on their computer, they're connecting their electronic kits to their computer and they're running plug-in programs, which are vast libraries of drums.
Sure.
And that's what's making the sound because they prefer it to their electronic kit sounds.
Yep.
So what Yamaha wanted to do with this is try and put all of that into the module, which I've got here. So they recorded lots of different drums and cymbals and percussion sounds in lots of different studios around Europe. And they've put them into the module in their basic raw state. And you can pick a kit, you can have a jazz-orientated snare, some rock toms, whatever, but they're all basic raw samples, and then you can choose what you do with them. So you've got just as much control on this as you would have if you had a computer on stage, but you don't have to have the computer on stage.
Right. Okay. And how many kits do you have in there?
Right. So as it comes, you've got 70 kits when you turn it on.
Right.
You can make 200 of your own, and you can store as many as you want on USB drive. So if you want to have 1,000 kits, you can do that.
Okay. So the sounds on the DTX10, they're all samples?
They're all samples, yeah. There's no synthesis at all. It's all samples done in lots of different studios around Europe. So in the UK, it's Peter Gabriel's Real World down near Bath, and then in lots of other different countries.
Are you involved in that?
I wasn't involved in the sampling.
Okay.
That's the sound design team who do that.
Okay.
But what they did was they took a load of gear into each studio, and they just sampled the kits and the drums which sounded the best in those studios.
Okay.
So
Yamaha drums, I presume.
Not all. There's a lot of Yamaha, but there's some other stuff in there as well. So we got the sound of the drums, and normally when we sample drums for a kit like this, you would just have the sound of through the mics.
Yes.
But what they did with this is they recorded the room sound as well. They mic'd the rooms, they had the overheads, and you can actually dial that sound back in very, very easily, just turning the ambience modifier knob, as it's called, and that puts the room sound back in.
Okay.
So
can we hear that?
Yeah. So let's go for, see if this one, if I just turn everything off. So this is the dry sound. This is a black vinyl kit. So quite a rock dry sound. But then if I just turn the ambience knob up.
Right, okay.
So that's the sound of the studio. and I can just dial that in or out.
Right.
But I've also got two other modify knobs, so I can add compression to the whole kit. And what compression does is, if I add a little bit, it sort of gels the sound of the kit together.
Yep.
But if I turn it up, it adds a lot more attack to the sound.
Okay.
A lot of slap. So I can go from the raw sound, ambience, compression, and effects. You can go as crazy as you want.
Right. Okay.
Very easy.
And those three knobs are basically the main three controllers for the sounds you've got, yeah?
No.
They're not the ones used to modify the sound?
They're right. They're used to modify the sounds, and they are the sort of they're always active. You can just instantly just change them, and they will change the sound.
Right.
But that's for the overall kit sound. You can go into each individual channel, each individual pad sound, and tweak to your heart's content if you want to. But not everyone obviously does want to.
Sure. Okay.
The whole thought behind this is that you can start with a library of basic raw sounds, and then you can add stuff to it. So if I take this kit here, which is a 10-inch snare and some sort of jazzy toms, ringy toms,
Yeah.
if I pitch them all up and make them a little bit shorter, and then turn up the ambience modifier, you've got instant Phil Collins. So you can just, again, just using those modifier knobs, you can just totally change
everything.
the sound of the kit.
Fantastic. And in terms of sounds, obviously you can load sounds in from external software, I think you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
So if you've got Superior Drummer or whatever.
Yeah. So what you would do is you would extract the sounds on your computer, and then you would put them onto your USB drive, and then you can import them. So I can have up to 120 samples, for example, on my snare drum.
Right.
And I could do, let's have a look, here we go. So this is a snares off sound, which I've imported. So I've got 10 layers deep and 4 repeating samples. So it will never give me the same sound twice, just like an acoustic drum. So even if I hit it, do the same each time, every single sound is always different. And then I've got dynamics, I've got the rim shots, so it just sounds really realistic.
That sounds amazing.
Sounds great.
Yeah, that is very impressive.
So you can load up to 1,000 of your own samples. So obviously, if you're going to do lots of multi-layer samples like that snare, that's 120. But if you want to load in Lars Ulrich's bass drum sound and trigger it from your bass drum,
I'm all right, thanks.
No, well, okay, but if you wanted to, you could. If you've got cymbal sounds or cowbells that you like, something like that, you can do it.
You can load up 1,000 sounds.
Yeah.
Is 900 not enough?
No.
Wow.
1,000
you could get lost forever.
Well,
you?
yeah, you could do. You could do. But it just means that you're never short of sounds. You always have a library of sounds which you can tailor to your own likes. I mean, that's the thing. If you hear a snare drum sound, or if you've sampled your own kit in the studio on a recording session, you can load all the samples into this, and you can have lots of dynamics and everything else.
Okay. So earlier on, you mentioned about playing live with it.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you can run your backing tracks through it.
Yep.
And also incorporate a click track.
Yes.
Which sounded interesting for people that want to use it live. Can you just explain that to us, please?
So the DTX-ProX, so the module which comes with the DTX10, has something called Live Set. And Live Set allows you to put all the kits that you're going to need for a gig in the right order. But it also allows you to, for each one of those, play a backing track, a stereo backing track off a USB drive. So you could if you're doing a gig and you need to run backing tracks, you can do that. But what makes this different is that the module will generate the click, and the module will play the click just through your headphones, whereas the track will go to the PA or out to the front of house.
Yep.
So it means that I could just stick my headphones on, I'm going to go into it. Let's have a look. Let's play something like. Let's play. What should we go with? I should have thought about. There we go. Here we go. So, since it's got the snares off sound that you like, I can just hit play. I've got a click, and it just works really easily.
Fantastic.
It's just really, really easy to work with.
So you can run all your backing tracks through that, have a click track.
Yeah.
So you could get rid of the singer and the bass player then, couldn't you?
Why would you want them in the first place?
Sounds perfect.
Yeah, totally.
Well, that's great. So it's great for live use then.
Yeah, great for live use. And also it's got 8 individual outputs and your master left and right. So you could send the track to 2 outputs, which can go to the front of house, and you can have all the other drums going out through individual outputs. So you can have a bass drum channel, a snare channel, a tom channel, whatever you want.
Okay.
So perfect for live. In the studio, you can you can connect it up to your computer. You can record directly into your computer over USB, just connect it with a single lead. You can obviously trigger software. It really depends on what you want to do. Basically, it's a kit for all seasons.
Wow. So this is the top of the range kit, the DTX10. So what are the big differences between this and the 8, which we're going to look at in a sec?
Okay, so with the 8, the pads are the same, apart from you've got a 10-inch floor tom rather than a 12-inch floor tom, which I've got here.
Yep.
And you've got the Pro module rather than the ProX module, which is very, very similar. It just hasn't got quite as many features.
Okay. So it's very similar. Similar pads generally, similar functionality, just slightly fewer features. Absolutely. And you don't get a hex rack, do you?
You don't get a hex rack, you get an RS8 rack, which is a normal tubular, black tubular rack.
The hex rack looks amazing.
It's quite good, isn't it?
Yeah. It's very impressive. Sounds amazing. I can't see anything to criticise, really. As long as it's got silicon pads on it, which is what I would choose.
Absolutely.
And it's obviously expandable. You can add extra cymbals and extra drums.
Add extra cymbals, add extra drums, depending on what you want to do. Obviously, you don't have to have it set up like this. If you want 1 up, 2 down, the rack's big enough for that. Move all the cymbals around. Yeah, totally.
Fantastic. Anything else I need to know about the module?
The module...
is it easy to use? Because, I'm not very technical, so could someone like me use it?
Totally.
Or do you need to be a studio engineer to master this?
No, you don't. I mean, it's... so the wonderful thing about it is because you've got these kit modifier knobs that you can just instantly change the sound with, most people will probably do with it is they will pick a kit and then they will just tweak the modifier knobs to make it how they want it to. Obviously, if they want to go into it, if they want to deep dive into it, you can go to crazy lengths and EQ and everything separately. But many people won't do that.
Okay. Do they get your phone number when they buy one of these kits? They can call you up 24 hours a day?
It's hidden somewhere inside the manual.
Okay. Have you got a favourite kit on there? And if so, can you demonstrate your favourite sounds?
I think, there's... I've already played some of them. I think the 80s UK gated. One thing, actually, I should point out about that is because the effects aren't built into the sounds, the effects are down to the player to put in as much as they want or as little as they want. This kit behaves exactly the same as an acoustic kit would do in the studio. So if I play it really lightly, you can hear just the drum sound by itself, because you've got to hit a certain threshold before the effects come in. So that is exactly what would happen with an acoustic kit through those effects.
So most of the people watching this weren't born in the 80s.
No, I know.
Have you got anything more up to date?
I don't know about that. Right, so, okay, well, more up to date cymbal stacks and stuff like that.
Right.
There's no cymbal stacks built into the module as such, because you can make your own. Okay, you can choose 2 cymbals or 3 cymbals or 4 cymbals if you want to. You can actually virtually stack them on the same cymbal pad. And you can put a china with a splash, shorten it slightly, and you got it.
Okay.
If you want to make some hi-hats out of splash cymbals, you can do it. Anything can be any sound at any time. It's really down to what you need it to do.
Wow, that's good.
Very cool.
Fantastic. Have you got anything you want to play us? Any kind of grooves or anything you want to show us before we move on to the 8?
Let's do something like this, because normally when you see electronic kit demos, they're all quite polite. So I thought doing something like this, which it's a track which I've called Sore Throat. You'll see why. And again, I've got the click playing through here.
Yep.
Something like this. So something a little bit less polite.
Nice.
So yeah, and it's obviously it just responds brilliantly. It responds so well, just as it would do if it were an acoustic kit.
Amazing. Sounds incredible. Okay, well, we've got these in stock, so if you want to come into GRD and try one out, we've got the 10 and the 8 on the shop floor ready for you to come and have a look at. So it's an amazing bit of kit, very much worth looking at. And thank you very much for that.
No problem.
And we'll talk in a minute about the DTX8.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Simon.
Thank you.